Hey crypto traders, checking in. Lots has gone on since we last checked in. Before we get into the technical analysis, first things first, thanks for everybody contributing to their guesses. Trader Pro, we're running a promo to give a year free subscription to anyone who gets the closest price to Bitcoin when the halving block comes in, and that should be soon. Guesses are over for now. And make sure and follow Trader Pro on Twitter to see any other contests we have. We have probably 200 plus entries, so it'll be interesting. Otherwise, I am going to be going live with DataDash and Cointelegraph Thursday, I believe 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll certainly post about that before that happens. So that'll be an interesting discussion. I'm sure we're going to end up calling each other names and having a big fight about the price of Bitcoin. So looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, we had a sell the news event, and it actually took place a bit sooner than I thought it would. It happened Sunday for the big drop, or Saturday, I should say. I would have been looking to Sunday, but certainly expecting, and also euphoric conditions. Again, when I see crypto Twitter, constantly everybody looking bullish, it tells us be very cautious. If everybody's bullish, who else is left to buy at these levels? And that's essentially what played out. We had a tweet that I posted back here on February 15th about groupthink and how social media can be used as a counter indicator. I retweeted that tweet on May 8th, and that's our new indicator. My annoyance with crypto moon calls on Twitter, and I will certainly reserve the next time I repost that tweet for ideal conditions, which will mean peak annoyance. So where do we stand from here? We have a couple events. Paul Tudor Jones, the billionaire, saying he's allocating 2% of his portfolio to Bitcoin. That's big news, absolutely. And I believe he is using Bitcoin futures, which is paper-backed, and not actually holding the Bitcoin himself, which is a bit of a difference, but it's on CNBC. The headlines are getting out there. It's definitely notable. I personally have 1.5% of my net worth in no-touch crypto positions, so something fairly similar. And that's what a lot of Bitcoin bulls are hoping for. Just have, it be common acceptance to have 1 to 2% of your capital in Bitcoin, and the market cap would surge if everybody did that. So we had the sell-off, a sell the news reaction twice. I mean, we've had a bunch of sell the news reactions. We had the bullish pop from low 9,000 to right up at 10,000 in response to that news coming out. We then had a sell-off. In my response, it was a sell the news reaction to the halving event. We know the halving is a known event. Short term, that's a sell the news scenario. Long term, it's bullish because by the law of supply and demand, that is bullish. But as far as short-term price action, we were very overextended, having bounced well over 100%. 150% on the weekly time frame, encountering weekly resistance. We have the 2-week long-term downtrend line resistance. I was surprised to see some Twitter analysts already calling it a bull break, but as we can see, perfect rejection from this downtrend resistance line. And now we're going to be watching for a weekly higher low to form on any meaningful pullback. And this is a long-term chart that a lot of people are going to be watching. We had another sell the news reaction today, where Paul Tudor Jones was on CNBC. We saw a huge bull move from 84.8 to 91.8, so a solid 5-6% move. And then here's your sell the news reaction. Pretty much right when he stopped talking, we dropped very quickly a solid 5%. So the volatility is absolutely here. Where do we stand big picture? So we have the weekly rejection from the downtrend long-term resistance line. I like price levels more than downtrend lines because downtrend lines are subjective, and you have people like Raoul Pal calling it a bull break where, if I have my downtrend resistance line just 1/8 of an inch higher than him, it's a clear rejection. I like price levels, and it's a very clear rejection from 10,522. We topped out with a lower high compared to that level, and now we're forming a weekly inside bar with just the start of the week happening right now. Most important level is the low of that reaction, 8106. If 8106 breaks this week, it is a very clear volume climax, the highest volume candle in 6 weeks. And this is just on Coinbase, but you're going to see that across the board. Bearish reversal candle. And if we break that low of 8106, the weekly consolidation that we've been patiently waiting for will be underway. I also want to see, can the bears confirm a daily downtrend? We lost the daily higher lows by breaking 85.33. But it will be meaningful to us if we see a daily lower high and lower low whenever the next daily bounce happens confirming a daily downtrend. And that's one thing that we didn't see significant confirmation of. We had a little weekly period of consolidation right here, and it was a daily lower high and lower low with no meaningful bear follow through. What we need to see is meaningful bear follow through and meaningful bear volume if we're going to zoom out and say, okay, big rejection, perhaps we're going to head back down to the $7,600, $6,000 range. Too soon to say. Bears have to prove follow through. Short term, where do we stand? 12-hour lower high is set, and we're now looking down at the low, 8106. Bulls must hold 8106 for a higher low to form. Let's see if we can get a different time frame. I like the 12-hour. So 12-hour, most important resistance, 9183. And the low of the reaction, key support. If that low of the reaction breaks, we're going to be in 12-hour oversold conditions very quickly. And keeping in mind that this will be a waterfall drop, I would be potentially interested in buying that dip, knowing that on any bounce, we are just looking for a daily lower high compared to $10,079. So it all depends on what time frame is most important to you. Is the 2-week time frame most important with that downtrend resistance line? Is the 12-hour time frame most important? It all depends on what your individual game plan is. And in my opinion, there will be a lot of people looking to buy a weekly high or low. It's not like we're just going to collapse back down to 3,800. I certainly don't foresee that being the most likely scenario. I see a tightening range being the most likely scenario. And the fact that we bounced this high in the first place is definitely notable and a point in favor of the bulls. Bitcoin dominance chart still remaining very strong. So we were watching a scenario, a potential scenario. If we see a sell the news reaction, first things first, Bitcoin, everybody was piling into Bitcoin for the halvening. I like the halvening more than the halving. So then we were watching, okay, when we see profit taking in Bitcoin, are funds going to go to the altcoins? And in this scenario, the pullback has been so hard, we're not really seeing that. Yes, we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance drop for 3 days, but we're just looking for a daily higher low. And what I'm seeing is not any significant meaningful follow through where, let's just look at ETH BTC as an example. Bounce, set a daily lower high. Yes, we're attempting to build a base of support here, but the bottom line is the altcoins are going to have to prove a lot more follow through if we're going to see significant signs of profit leaving Bitcoin and going to these other coins. So the Bitcoin dominance daily uptrend is going to be key for me. We are just looking for a higher low. If we lose the daily uptrend, then we know, yes, some decent funds are heading into our larger cap altcoins. ETH, daily downtrend confirmed, lower high and lower low. We have lost the pattern of a higher low every single week, which was intact from the low of the dump. So that is almost 2 months. That's 7 weeks of a higher low every single candle. And it's just your standard equilibrium. After a ton of volatility, we look for equilibriums. Yes, Bitcoin bounce was more significant than I would have anticipated, but it is still a tightening range. We're going to be looking for ETH to give us a weekly higher low compared to $90. There's 50% of space for bulls to work with. My favorite time to be looking for a weekly higher low, there's multiple ways to do it. Number one, patient bulls wait for a daily trend change back in favor of the bulls to set a weekly higher low. Number two, daily oversold conditions for a more aggressive bull. If we were to drop further, and if ETH were to get to daily oversold conditions, we're still in the low 40s, so we would need a solid drop from here. But that's when bulls can start potentially scaling in, looking for a weekly higher low. So any bounce from here, we're actually testing the lows right now. So new 4-hour resistance, rejecting right from exponential moving averages, testing the low of 180. And if 180 breaks, the next support level that we're looking down at is the most clear level, 166.40. Next time we bounce and next time we change the 4-hour trend for the bulls, which we actually did with no follow through, we're just going to look for a daily lower high because anything under 217 is just a daily lower high. So a key support test on ETH. We're watching ETH BTC for a weekly higher low. Don't forget this big longer term equilibrium. 2019 was the most important support. We're holding 2098 at the moment, and we need a daily trend change back to the bulls. If the bulls can break 22.9 here, that will be fairly convincing that our weekly higher low has been set. And how this pattern breaks is going to dictate significant information for the second half of 2020 as to whether or not bulls should be looking at ETH or bulls should be looking at Bitcoin. And this pattern has already been 5 months in the making. LTC, So daily downtrend confirmed here as well. We did just drop to a lower low under 39.98. So the bear's still in complete control. Next time we bounce on the daily, we know we're just looking for a lower high compared to 49.12. Weekly consolidation finally underway. Bulls looking for a weekly higher low compared to $25. The bounce much less significant as far as getting back to where we came from than most coins, which is why Litecoin has been one of the weaker names. XRP. So XRP is looking down at its low of the reaction, 17.8. Anything under 225 will just be a daily lower high. Weekly time frame, top being set, and we're looking for a weekly higher low compared to 11.4. So obviously momentum has shifted on a lot of these names on their daily time frames. So again, the weekly chart is the most important for me, scouting weekly higher lows. And again, it all depends on, first question, am I aggressive or conservative looking for bullish entries? And that's going to determine if you patiently wait for daily trend changes or look to scale into weakness. Binance. So BNB testing the low of the reaction, 1391. Weekly chart. Consolidation clearly underway for the first time as we had a weekly higher low every candle on the bounce. High, low, lower high. We're scouting a higher low compared to 638, and we're watching daily RSI levels for everybody because, again, starting to scale in daily oversold conditions, looking for weekly higher lows is something that I have done many times in the stock world. Link, holding on clearly stronger than everybody else, but just now starting to see some chips in the armor, cracks in the armor of the bulls. 351 and 337. Two key supports. We just broke 351. The daily uptrend is lost. Weekly chart looking like it's time for consolidation with everybody else. It's holding on better than most individual names. You can see the daily RSI not comparable to the names we just looked at, but finally rolling over. Can't withstand the momentum of the entire cryptocurrency space, and we're at the low of the bearish reaction. So it almost looks like Link is playing a bit of catch up to the downside. On any bounce, anything under 421 is just a daily lower high. XTZ USD, down at the low of the reaction. Anything under 297 will just be a daily lower high. Weekly time frame, consolidation clearly underway. Equilibriums all over the place. So that is where we stand in the cryptocurrency space as a whole. If you're a long-term bull, you're going to have to patiently wait through weekly consolidation. We're going to likely see these weekly equilibriums tighten up. If I had to guess, it would be a premature guess because, again, Bitcoin hasn't even started weekly consolidation. But if that is what we get, I would be looking for a break. It all depends on how long it takes us to find the weekly high or low. And generally, I would not be making a guess on timing until that happens. You know, we could pull back for 2 weeks or we could pull back for 5 weeks. Very big difference between those two scenarios. But if I were forced to guess, I would say that I'm not basing any money on this whatsoever. This is just a very rough guess. If I had to guess, I would be looking for a break end of summer 2020 here from these tightening weekly ranges, but there's no need to make a prediction like that because we will have new information every single day and we'll continue checking in when we get that new information. So weekly equilibriums on most altcoins. We're expecting Bitcoin likely going to follow suit for more significant weekly consolidation. Keep an eye on that long-term tightening range that I drew first thing, and we'll keep checking in. I appreciate you watching. Stay protective. And again, social media indicator when everybody is bullish. Think of it being on a boat. If you're on a boat and you're trying to stay balanced and everybody is going to one side of the boat, it might make you feel comfortable. Oh, I chose the right side of the boat. Everybody's over here with me. And then the boat starts tipping that way. And you want to quickly go back to that other side. And that is the analogy of what happens in groupthink when everybody's looking in the same direction. So the number one thing that will make me second guess my conviction in a trade is if everybody is saying the same thing. Then I say, uh-oh, I might be wrong here because everybody's looking that way, which is the S&P 500 starting this bounce 2 months ago. Everybody was looking bearish, and we just kept bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and getting follow through. And that helped. The fact that everybody was bearish helped this bounce keep getting some follow through. So key support tests coming on Bitcoin, some altcoins already breaking their lows. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Do good things.